And battles are never won alone. They are won together. Because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand. In honor of one child's wish. And inspired by the fire in his fight. Join the kingdom.
Hey everyone, my name is Rylan Strauss and welcome to the 5th episode of the KingJay Podcast. Now, if you guys like this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with all your friends and family so we're able to grow this podcast as big as possible so that way we're able to reach more people so we can help more people. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So starting off where we left off in the previous episode, ending it with saying my last goodbye to my brother and seeing him pass away, take his last breath, and getting into all the details from there. And previous to that, moving forward, I remember, just a few days after, we go and see him one last time before he's cremated, and we walk into the building and they got him laid out in a bed in front of the setup. It was basically like a church setup. They had him, out in front of all the pews, whatever, benches, whatever you want to call it. And remember, they had him out in the bed, and so we walked down the aisle, and my family goes, all my siblings and then my parents, they all go and sit on the left side, and I'm sitting by myself on the right side of the aisle. And I remember just looking at him, just thinking of, how I just didn't want to leave. I didn't want to have to say goodbye to him or anything like that. Because I knew the second that I walked back through those doors, it was going to be the last time seeing him. And I just sitting there just thinking about memories over and over. And finally my family, one by one, they kind of slowly get up, say their last goodbye to him and walk out. And I remember my dad coming up to me and just telling me to take my time. And it felt like it was 30 minutes that I was in there by myself, but it was probably only 10, 15 minutes at the most. But I remember, just sitting there, just thinking of all those memories and just kind of realizing that, there's nothing that I can do about it now. I can't, as much as I wanted to, it's still to this day, as much as I want to, you can't bring him back. It's a part of life. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality of life. Everyone has a time to go, but it was just trying to, be able to come to terms in that moment and realize that, there's nothing I can do. So, I remember just standing up and going over and talking to him, just kind of just saying my last goodbyes. And like I said in the previous episode, when I kind of just kept going back and telling him that I got you, it was a bit of the same thing again. I remember just, giving him one last hug and just telling him I got him. And I just kind of, tearing up a bit, crying. And then I just kind of started, walking backwards away. And as soon as I turned around, I knew that, it's what I have to do. You can't hold on to it forever. You can't let it sit there and take you down. And as much as, like I said before, as much as you want to, do anything that you could to bring him back, you can't. So I remember, turning around and wiping the tears away and just realizing, I just need to use this as motivation. I'm the oldest brother in the house now. I'm the oldest sibling. I need to, become more responsible, kind of lead by example now for my younger siblings. So it was it hit me all at that moment that, there's nothing I can do about it now. Just use it to make myself a better person. So a few days later, we have the celebration of life, funeral, whatever words you want to use for it. Everyone has their own, and getting prepared for it for a few days. And we had it at the Victoria soccer field where he played for multiple years of soccer, with tons of friends and family. And I remember we had no idea how many were going to come. We just kind of put it out there, this is what's going to be going on. If you want to come, you're more than welcome to. And kind of just like in a way, a mass invitation. And I remember pulling into the parking lot, and it was full, but as soon as I remember, I was the one carrying the urn, and remember as soon as we start walking down the aisle and just seeing all the people there, I never would have expected. Well, I expected it, but at the same time, I didn't expect for there to be that many people there. And just walking down to the front row, carrying the urn, I just remember, out of all the people there, I just remember only being able to visualize a few faces, and that was, my Bubba, my one neighbor who we don't even talk to a whole lot, just kind of the common, the quick wave and all that, and then also one of my buddies, and then my coach from hockey that year. Those were the only faces that I saw. It was just kind of a bit of a blur while I was walking down, and going up to the table, placing him out on the table, and then going and taking a seat. And it was just the whole celebration, ceremony, whatever you want to call it. It was really beautiful to go through, and something that, it's obviously a day you'll never forget, and obviously not an easy day. But I remember, throughout the whole time, I was so surprised with myself. I think it was, after that last time seeing him before he was cremated, it was kind of, I think that's when my mindset started to change without a doubt. And, throughout the whole funeral, not once did I even start to tear up, and it wasn't, trying to be tough or anything like that. And it just didn't go that way. And I think that's, when the mindset for me kind of kicked in, that, crying for me does me no good. It, for others, that's what people need to do. Everyone works their own ways, and, that's totally okay. No one is the same. But I remember just being so shocked with myself, and, I don't think it was because I was in shock or anything. I know for myself, I was able to come to terms with it pretty quickly, fortunately, or unfortunately, maybe in some ways, depending on how you look at it. But, just seeing all the friends and family, even people who there's, tons that I had no idea who they even were. And, they all waited in line to, give their condolences afterwards. And it was just a day that was really amazing to see. I remember my science teacher from that year, grade 10, Mrs. Bontis, even showed up. And I remember when I saw her, I was just in complete shock. I was only in her class for just a few months at the time, but I remember seeing her there. She was really supportive for me throughout the whole process. I'd end up, missing some classes to go see him in the hospital. And I remember I missed basically the whole physics unit because of, just being in the hospital, seeing him and all that stuff. And, she didn't make me do any of the physics questions on the midterm or final. And she, didn't make me do any of the unit, which definitely helped me keep my grade to where it was. I don't think it would have ended up too good if she wouldn't have done something like that. And so, just even having a teacher there that, that's there for you, it's something that's, it's really special, and something that, it really meant a lot to me and still does to this day. So, moving forward after, those first few weeks, I felt like our family as a whole, we kind of just tried to return to as normal as a life as you can after going through something like that. Just kind of continue on with school and sports and everything. And it was a little bit what's the right word I'm looking for? I guess difficult in a way for, I know for sure my dad, he brought up, grief counseling. And I think that's something that, it's obviously going to help no matter what your situation is. But I feel like for our family, we almost, not that we tried to put it off or anything, but we never ended up doing it or anything like that. I think we just kind of jumped right back into things pretty quick and tried to normalize life as much as we could to how it was before. And, life carries away. And then next thing you know, it's, you're way farther down the line, and you just learn how to, you end up learning how to go through the whole process yourself. Something, well, of course, with, help from friends and family, everyone has their own experiences. And, going through that whole situation by myself, along with my family, it definitely makes you a stronger and tougher person. It completely changes your mindset without a doubt. And, getting into the end of the hockey season that year, like I said in, one of the first episodes, my older brother, he was a winner. He won tons of championships in sports, and he always liked to bug me about it because I was never able to live up to his level and, in any way. But, getting near to the end before he passed, he told me that, he wants to see me go win a championship. And, that year for hockey, we had a really strong team, really good team. We were, first and second throughout the entire season. And I remember, we go into the North Conference for playoffs and we end up winning. And I remember, my parents, and they kind of saw it as I finally won. But for me, there's still that next step for provincials. And I remember, we were celebrating after, the win and getting in, everyone's happy, and of course, I was happy and everything, but at the same time, I wasn't satisfied or anything. I knew that there was still, for me personally, it didn't count as winning a championship. There was still another level that we had to go through. We still had to go against the South, and I, just sitting in that room, I just, as happy as I was at the same time, I was still not content with the situation. I knew that there was still another step to go through. So, go through provincials, and we just completely choked. We didn't play our best hockey, and I think we ended up going 1-3 or something like that. And so, obviously we didn't do too well, but, I think if we would have played our best, we without a doubt could have won. But, that doesn't happen all the time. That's the way that hockey goes. And I remember, just sitting after we lost our last game and we got knocked out, just thinking about my brother over and over, and thinking, I felt like in a way I let him down, but at the same time I knew that, there's still going to be, there's still more seasons, there's going to be more games, still more championships to win. And for me, I just kind of felt like I put a little bit extra pressure on myself, because I just thought it'd make it that much more special to be able to win, provincials in the same season that, he happened to pass away. But, I also knew that, he'll always be watching over me. So, further down the line, whenever it happens, whether it's as a player, as a coach, or whatever it may be, I know that he'll be watching me. So once after, I kind of totally realized that, it kind of changed my mindset on it, and, just made sure I told myself, just get back to work and work towards that next opportunity, whether it's next season or whenever it may be. So, following through, the rest of the school year and going into the summer, I felt like, from where I am today compared to then, my mindset didn't change a whole lot compared to where it is today with the whole situation. I think it took a little bit for me to learn the healthy way to go about it. It's definitely something that you got to adapt to, and just, I just kind of tried to go about it, live life like any other high school kid at the time, going out with friends every weekend and going to parties and all that fun stuff. And, without a doubt, I, had tons of fun all the time. But, when those were, going out with buddies and all those memories, they were, you look back on it now and, of course I'm only, still 18, so still tons to go, but it was definitely some fun times. But I felt like at the same time I didn't take in, I didn't kind of, in a way I kind of just let, my brother kind of, the whole situation at times just kind of go to the side, and I try to ignore it. And then kind of in other moments I'd start to use it as motivation. But, like I said, it takes time to learn how to use it in the appropriate way and in a healthy way. There's, of course, tons of different ways to go about it, but there's some unhealthy ways to go about it for sure too, even if it's not in a negative way. It kind of just depends on who you are as a person and how you're programmed. So, like I've said this multiple times throughout the podcast, what works for yourself isn't going to work for someone else. Maybe it does, but there's a good chance that it's not. And from what my experience through it all, especially from the beginning, one expression that I've kind of come to realize that I don't agree with a whole lot is, well, of course, people have the right intentions when they tell someone this, but when someone passes away and then someone says, "Oh, I know what you're going through," it's something that obviously they have the right intentions in place, but from my point of view, I totally disagree with that, because I think it's much better off to say, even just changing one word and going, I can relate to you. It's something that's completely, as similar as it is, it's also completely different. Whether two families both went through cancer, you still can't, you don't know what each other are going through. You can definitely relate, but to have the exact same situation, every family's different. The parents are programmed different, the kids are programmed different, everyone works different. So it's impossible to say that what someone's going through, because everyone's life is completely different from one another. So even if it's the same type of cancer and lasts for the, say two families, they both happen to lose a kid, and it both took the span of 2 years where they were battling through cancer, it's still, you can relate a lot more than, someone else, but it's still not the same situation, just because of how different families are and how different people go about it different ways. So I think that's something that I came to learn real quickly, and I kind of, to this day, I still love to understand it in a different perspective. But, going through the summer, going into baseball season, I think that was kind of when I started to become a lot tougher on myself, for sure. And because of, losing my brother, it's something that, I've always been tough on myself, but I think after that, it kind of made me even a little bit tougher on myself. I remember, just going through games, and it's kind of a routine that I started to go through. And if I didn't have a so-called perfect game, I'd run after the game, just by myself. And it wasn't something to beat myself up on, or, I know that it's impossible to be perfect. If you could be perfect, I don't even think it'd be fun, because, of course at first it would be, but after time, it almost just get boring and take the competitiveness out of everything. And so, say if I were to go 3 for 4 with 3 homers in a game somehow, but I had 1 strikeout, I'd still go run some polls after because of that 1 strikeout. And, whatever it may be, of course that never ended up happening, going 3 for 4 with 3 homers. But, that's just an example. It's just push myself to be better and just think of my brother while I was running those polls, just like I said, not to beat myself up, but just to improve myself to be better for the next game. Because although you can't be perfect, you can always be better no matter what the situation is. And, that season for baseball, we were near the bottom, but, that season, it was a lot of fun. And, at least for me personally, I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like being able to grow as a person, learning how to handle the whole situation with my brother and using it in a positive way, through sports. It was something that I believe really helped me. If we lost a game, which we happened to do quite a bit that season, I'd run an extra pole, and it was something that in a way it helped. But so that's just gonna wrap up this episode for this week, and going into next week, we'll be jumping into, me moving away from home for hockey and everything. And I believe that's when everything really started to really change for myself. Living on your own basically at 16, you gotta really mature while still, of course, adapting to losing your brother. So with that being said, thank you very much for tuning in to this week's episode, and I hope you guys tune in next week. Thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode on the KingJay Podcast. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast app or watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family, as our goal is to grow this as big as possible, so we're able to reach this podcast to as many people as possible who are potentially looking for some guidance through a tough time in their lives, and be able to help fund future wishes for other kids in need, and just be able to make as big of an impact as possible. Thank you.
Join the kingdom